Here's a riddle that sounds impossible when you first hear it. Almost every country on Earth is in debt. The United States owes trillions, so does China, so does Japan, Britain, France, India. Nearly all of them, owing staggering, almost unimaginable amounts of money. And here's the part that breaks your brain. If almost every country owes money, who on earth is everybody borrowing it from? Who has enough money to lend to the entire planet at once? It sounds like the whole world is somehow in debt to itself. And in a strange way, it almost is. Today, I'm going to untangle this mystery in the simplest way possible. I'll show you why every country borrows, who they actually owe all this money to, why they never seem to pay it back, and, most importantly, how this giant, distant-sounding number reaches all the way down into your wallet, quietly, whether you realize it or not. Let me promise you one thing up front. I'm going to keep this simple, and I'm going to keep it fair. This isn't about blaming one country, one party, or one leader. Every kind of government everywhere, of every political flavor, does this. It's baked into how the modern world runs. My job today isn't to point fingers. It's to pull back the curtain and show you the machine, how it actually works, and who really wins and loses. So let's start at the very beginning with the simplest question of all. Why does a country borrow money in the first place? Think about a country like a giant household. Every year the government takes in money, mostly from taxes. And every year it spends money on roads, schools, hospitals, the military, pensions for the elderly, salaries for millions of workers. Now here's the simple truth at the heart of everything. Almost every year, governments spend more than they take in. The amount they spend beyond what they collect is called the deficit. And to cover that gap, to pay for everything they've promised when the tax money isn't enough, they have to borrow the difference. Do that year after year, decade after decade, and all those yearly gaps pile up into one enormous total. That grand total of everything the government has borrowed and not yet paid back. That's the national debt. So why don't they just spend less and stop borrowing? Sometimes they try, but it's politically brutal. Spending less means cutting things people love and rely on. Pensions, healthcare, services, or raising taxes, which nobody enjoys. Borrowing, on the other hand, is painless in the moment. It lets a government give people what they want today and push the bill into the future, onto a later government, a later generation. Borrowing is the path of least resistance. And so, almost everywhere, that's the path they take. That's the setup. Now for the real mystery, the mask over the whole thing. When a country borrows all this money, who is actually lending it? Here's where almost everyone gets it wrong. When you picture a country in debt, you might imagine it owing money to some other country, or to a giant global bank somewhere. But that's mostly not how it works. The truth is stranger and much more interesting. Countries borrow money by selling something called bonds. And a government bond is really just a fancy promise note. It says, "Lend me a sum of money today, and I promise to pay you back later, with a little extra interest on top." The government prints these promises and sells them to anyone willing to buy. And who buys them? This is the part that unlocks the whole mystery. The biggest lenders to a country are very often its own people and its own institutions. Banks buy these bonds. Insurance companies buy them to safely hold the money that will one day pay out your policies. Pension funds buy enormous amounts of them, which means the retirement savings of ordinary workers are right now lent out to the government. And everyday citizens buy them too, directly or through their investments, because a government bond is considered one of the safest places on earth to park money. So when you hear that a country is trillions in debt, a huge chunk of that is the government owing money to its own banks, its own pension funds, its own citizens. The nation, in large part, owes the money to itself. That riddle from the beginning? That's the answer. It's not one mysterious giant lender. It's millions of banks, funds, and people, all holding the government's promises. Now, part of the debt is owed to foreigners too. Other countries' banks, funds, and governments who also buy these bonds because they're considered safe and they pay interest. You may have heard, for example, that countries like China or Japan hold large amounts of another country's debt. That simply means their institutions bought a lot of those promise notes because it was a safe place to store their money and earn a little return. It's not sinister, it's just lending. They're the bank. The borrowing country is the customer. That's it. So now you understand who they owe, which brings us to the next piece of the puzzle. And this is where the mask really comes off. Why do countries never actually pay it all back? Why does the debt just grow and grow and grow, seemingly forever, without the whole thing collapsing? The answer is one of the most important and least understood ideas in all of economics. So let me make it simple. A country is not like you or me. You and I will eventually retire and die, so we're expected to pay off our debts within a lifetime. But a country, in theory, lives forever. It doesn't need to ever fully pay off its debt. It just needs to keep being able to handle it. Here's how it does that trick. When an old bond comes due and the government owes someone their money back, the government often just borrows again. It sells a brand new bond to a new lender, uses that fresh money to pay off the old one, and rolls the debt forward, over and over, endlessly. It's a bit like paying off one credit card with another, except when you do it, it's a disaster. And when a country does it, it's considered completely normal, because the country is trusted to keep doing it forever. And there's a second piece of magic that makes the mountain of debt shrink without anyone paying a cent, and it's an old friend of ours from before: inflation. Remember, inflation means money slowly loses value over time. Well, a country's debt is just a fixed number of those dollars. So as the years pass and inflation quietly shrinks what each dollar is worth, that fixed pile of debt becomes easier and easier to handle, because the dollars used to pay it back are worth less than the ones that were borrowed. In a strange way, inflation is like a silent, invisible tax that slowly melts the debt away over time. Governments know this, which is why a little bit of steady inflation from their point of view isn't entirely a bad thing. It quietly lightens their load. So this is the collapse, except it's the opposite of a collapse. It's a machine that just keeps running. The government spends more than it earns, borrows the difference by selling promises to banks and funds and citizens, pays off old promises by making new ones, and lets inflation quietly shrink the whole pile over time. Round and round, decade after decade. As long as everyone keeps trusting that the country will honor its promises, the machine keeps spinning, and the debt can grow almost without limit. The danger only comes if that trust breaks. If lenders start to doubt they'll be paid back and demand much higher interest to keep lending. For a stable, trusted country, that's rare. For a shaky one, it can be a catastrophe. But for most of the big economies, the machine just keeps turning. Now, here's the part that matters most to you. The part nobody connects for you. Because you might be thinking, fine, but that's the government's problem, not mine. What does a giant national number have to do with my kitchen table? More than you think. Because you are quietly paying for this debt in two ways every single day. The first way is through your taxes. Remember, the government pays interest on all that borrowed money, and that interest is enormous, often one of the single biggest expenses in the entire national budget, sometimes rivaling what's spent on the military or on healthcare. Where does the money to pay that interest come from? From taxes. From you. So a huge slice of what you pay every year doesn't build a single road or hire a single nurse. It just pays the interest on money borrowed long ago, much of it flowing to the banks, funds, and wealthy investors who hold those bonds. In a quiet way, it's a transfer from ordinary taxpayers to the people wealthy enough to own the debt. And the second way you pay is through that silent tax we just talked about. Inflation. When a government leans too hard on borrowing and on creating money to manage its debt, one of the side effects can be inflation. Prices rising, your money buying less. So the debt doesn't just sit on a government spreadsheet far away. It can quietly show up in your life as a more expensive cart of groceries, a higher gas bill, a dollar that doesn't stretch as far as it used to. You may never get a bill labeled national debt, but you help pay it at the checkout counter and on your tax return, all the same. So what do you actually do with all this? You're not a government. You can't vote yourself out of the national debt, but understanding this machine protects you in real ways. Grab a pen. First, understand that inflation is partly a policy, not just an accident. Now that you know governments quietly benefit from steady inflation shrinking their debt, you understand why your cash slowly loses value over the years isn't some random misfortune. It's a built-in feature of the system, which means letting your long-term money sit still, losing value, is playing the losing side of a game the system is designed to win. This is exactly why, as we talked about before, money you won't need for years generally needs to grow, not sit. Second, be skeptical of anyone who uses the scary national debt number to sell you something. The giant, terrifying debt figure is a favorite tool of salespeople and doom peddlers. The whole system is about to collapse, so buy my special product, my gold, my newsletter, my course, to protect yourself. Now you understand the machine well enough to know it's far more complicated than "we're all about to go bankrupt tomorrow." Fear is a sales tool. Don't let a big number panic you into a bad decision. Third, and most simply, understand where your tax money really goes. When you know that a large chunk of government spending is just interest on old debt, you become a sharper, harder-to-fool citizen. You listen to promises about spending and taxes with clearer eyes because you understand the machine humming underneath all of it. And a citizen who understands the machine is a citizen much harder to deceive. Now, let me be completely fair because I always will be. Government borrowing is not automatically evil, and debt is not automatically a disaster. Borrowing can build roads, fight wars, rescue an economy in a crisis, and fund things that pay off for generations. Used wisely, it's a powerful tool. The problem is never that the tool exists, it's that the machine runs quietly, in language designed to be boring, on a scale too big to picture, precisely so that most people never look closely enough to see how it reaches into their own pockets. But you looked. Now you see it. Because here's the truth hiding inside that impossible riddle we started with. The world isn't really in debt to some mysterious outsider. The debt is a vast web connecting governments, banks, funds, investors, and ordinary people like you. And every strand of it is paid for in the end by the taxes you send in and the value your money quietly loses. The national debt was never as far away as it sounds, and the person who understands the machine is the person who stops being quietly used by it. If this finally made the whole confusing mess of national debt click into place, share it with someone who's always wondered how a whole planet can be in debt at once. And stick around, because next time, I'm detecting another trap they're praying you'll never spot.